Hmm. Shabbat Shalom. We'll begin putting on the talit in just a minute. Lehita tefet tzitzit. If you're inclined to say the bracha, lehita tefet tzitzit. I don't see any indications the webcam is on. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. Good Shabbos. We begin this morning on page 99. On page 99. The prayer is the prayer for the soul on page 99. My God, the soul that you've given me is pure. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Torahi. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me, you watch over it when it isn't in me. In the future you will take it from me, but then restore it to me in the world that is coming. As long as the soul is within me, I thank you. Adonai, my God, God of my ancestors, ruler of all creation, master of all souls. Baruch atah Adonai, who restores the soul to lifeless form. Not only is this prayer a reminder, a meditation on the infinite preciousness of the soul within each and every one of us, but an added benefit, the way I see it, is that as long as the soul is within me, I thank you. The soul is a touch from God to remind us to be grateful. Every day is an opportunity to be grateful. That's what the soul does. In addition to animating who we are, in addition to connecting each individual to the forever beyond the universe, it's also a capacity for us to be thankful. On page 101. Ma tovu halecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, v'ani berov chastecha avovetecha, eshtachave el heichal kodshecha b'yiratecha. Adonai ahavti mon beitecha u'makom mishkan kavodecha v'ani eshtachave v'yachra evracha lifnei Adonai osi v'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim berov chastecha aneni be'emet yishecha. Rising, we turn to pages 103 and 104. Pardon me, pages 103 and 104. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'ivina lahavchin v'yomu v'layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam poke Rokeach Ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. The top of 104. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokach haaretz hamoyim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asa likol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Ozei Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Otei Yisrael b'tif'ara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten le'ohev koach. Udnenu hayom v'chol yom l'cheinu chesed rachamim b'nech v'necha u'reinu b'tigmalenu chasadim tovim Baruch atah Adonai kabel chasamo Yisrael. We are seated now, turning to page 112, the Psalm for Shabbat, page 112. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat tov lahodot la'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon ulezamer l'shimcha elyon lahagid baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha b'leilot alei asor v'alei navel alei higayon b'chinor. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat tov lahodot la'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Ki simachtan Adonai b'folecha b'ma'aseh yodecha aranen ma'galu ma'asecha Adonai mod amakum machshavotecha. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat tov lahodot la'Adonai ulezamer l'shimcha elyon ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish, all who commit evil will be scattered. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no flaw. Baruch Shamar, found on page 122. Baruch Shamar v'hayolam Baruch Hu Baruch Oseh v'Reishit Baruch Omer v'Oseh Baruch Ozer Umekayim Baruch Mirachem Shalem, Sachar Tov L'Reov, Baruch Chayilad V'Kayam Lo Netzach, Baruch Podeh Umatzil, Baruch Shemo. The singular one gives life to the world, the sovereign who is praised and glorified forever and ever. This is your great name. Baruch Atah Adonai, sovereign, celebrated with songs of praise. Yachid Cheholamim, Melech Mishubach Mafar, Adei Ad Shemo Hagadol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech Mo'avatish Bachot. On page 125, in the upper left corner, a note from Avram Yeshua Heschel, the upper left corner on page 125. Israel exists not in order to be, but in order to dream the dream of God. Our faith may be strained, but our destiny is anchored to the ultimate. Who can establish the outcome of our history? Out of the wonder we came, and it's the wonder we shall return. We exist not in order to be, but in order to dream. Out of the wonder we came, and into the wonder we shall return. To inhabit a reality of dream and of wonderment. The Ashrei, page 136. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Od Yolucha Selah, Ashreyam Shekocholo, Ashreyam Shronoi Elohov, Tilal David, Aramim Chalai HaMelech, Vavracha Shimcha Leolam Voed, B'chol Yom Avachecha, V'halala Shimcha Leolam Voed, Gadol Adonai Molol Vod, V'ligdoto En Cheker, Dodoi Shabach Masecha, V'vurotecha Yagidu, Hadar Kavod Hodecha, Divrei Nifotecha Asicha, Ve'ezus Noretecha Yameru, U'gedulatcha Asapreno, Zecherav Tuvecha Yabiu, V'tzikatecha Yeranenu, Chanun Rachum Adonai, Erech Alpayim Ugdol Chesed, Tov Adonai Lakol, Rachamov Al Kol Ma'asav, Yoduch Adonai Kol Ma'asecha, V'chasidecha Yevarchucha, Kavod Malchutcha Yomeru, V'gevoratecha Yedaberu, L'hodia Livnei Hadam Gvurotov, V'chavod Hadar Malchuto, Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, U'memshaltecha B'chol Dor V'ador, Somech Adonai L'chol HaNoflim, V'zokef L'chol HaKfufim, Enei Chol Elecha Yesaveru, V'ata noten lahem et hachlam be'ito, Poteach et yodecha, U'maspia l'chol charatzon, Tzadik Adonai b'chol derachov, V'chasid b'chol ma'asav, Karov Adonai l'chol korov, l'chol asher yikrohu v'emet. Ritzon Yirav Yaseh, V'et Shabbatam Yishma V'yoshim, Shomer Adonai et kol Ohavav, V'et kol Harshaim Yashmid, Tehillat Adonai Daber Pi, V'varech kol basar Shem Kachol Elam Voed, V'adachnu nevarech Yah me'atav ad olam. Hallelujah. Turning to page 141. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. El B'Kodsho. Hallelujah. B'Kiyahuzo. Hallelujah. B'Gvurotov. Hallelujah. Kurogulo. Hallelujah. B'Teka Shofar. Hallelujah. B'Nevel V'Chinor. Hallelujah. B'Tov U'Machol. Hallelujah. B'Mini V'Ugav. Hallelujah. B'Tzil Tzilei Shema. Hallelujah. B'Tzil Tzilei Tshua. Kol Hanshama Tehallel. Hallelujah. Kol Hanshama Tehallel. Hallelujah. Yalla la 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 la. Yalla la 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 la. Yalla la 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 la. La 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 la. Yalla la 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 la. Yalla la 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 la. Yalla la 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 la. La 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 la. Nishmat on page 144. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. On page 147, Shochenad, the first red arrow, Shochenad. Shochenad Morom V'Kadosh Shemo V'Chatuv Ranano Tzadikim B'Adonai Laisharim Nava Tehillah B'Fi Yesharim Tithalal U'B'Divrei Tzadikim Titbarach U'B'Oshan Chasidim Titramam U'B'Kerev Kedoshim Titkadash U'Makalot Revivot Amcha Beit Yisrael. David ben Yishai Abdecha Meshichecha. Top of 148. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VeHaKadosh B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Ki Lecha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avot avotenu ve'imotenu shir u'shavacha halel v'zimra ozu memshala netzach gedula u'gvura tehila v'tiferet kiddusha u'malchut brachot v'orot be'ata v'yad olam Baruch atah Adonai El melech hador tishbachot El ahodot Adonai niflot Habocher b'shirei zimra Melech elchei olamim Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabam B'amad divrachim v'chochotei B'chayachonu v'yomechonu v'chayrecho beit Yisrael B'agala u'v'zman kariv imru Amen Yehei shemei rabah Mevarach olam u'me'ol mayom Yitbarak v'yishtabach V'yitparvder v'yinaseh V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shmei kedusha brechu Leila min kol brachata v'shirata Tishbachata v'nechemata Damram v'mavimro Amen. We rise. Book on page 149, 150. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Voed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam Yotzer or vorech choshech Oseh shalom Uvarei et hakol. And we are seated. On page 153 on the English side, referring to angels. Angels are with us right now, and we are with angels. It's the bottommost paragraph on page 153. They offer, we are singing along, we say this poetry. They offer adulation to God whom they bless. They chant songs and voice their praise to the sovereign, the living and enduring God. For God alone achieves victory, creates anew, masters war, sows righteousness, cultivates deliverance, effects healing, is praised with reverence, and is the author of wonders. In God's goodness, the work of creation is renewed each day. As the psalmist declared, thanks to the Creator of great lights, for God's love is everlasting. Cause a new light to shine on Sion, and may we all soon be worthy of its illumination. Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir V'nizkechu lanu me'era le'oro Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMorot. The bottom of page 154, gathering the tzitziot together, the four corners, reminding us that we Jews are only fulfilled and complete as individuals when we reach out to someone else, to bring someone else into our community. The last stanza, page 154. V'havi'enu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komemiyot le'artzenu ki el poel yeshuot ata uvanu v'charta mikolam v'lashon v'keravtanu l'shimcha hagadol sela be'emet l'hodot l'cha o yachercha b'yahava Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'mo Yisrael v'Ahava. Page 155. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'divarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shachbecha v'kumecha v'kishartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha v'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha. The middle of page 156. Vayom Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'marta lehem v'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem l'doratam v'nanu al tzitzit hakanaf tetil techelet v'yolachem l'tzitzit Uritem ato, uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, vasitem otam, flotaturu, acharei levavchem, v'acharei enechem, asher atem zonim achareihem, l'man tizkaru, vasitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item kedoshim le'elohechem, ani Anolechem. Asher otzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. On page 158 in the center of the page. Mi chamocha ve'lim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lot osei felem Shira chadasha shibchu geulim leshimcha sefat hayam yachad kulam hoduvim lechu v'yamro Adonai imloch la'olam va'ed Tzur Yisrael kuma b'ezrat Yisrael uftechinu mecham Yehuda v'Yisrael go aleinu Adonai tzvot shemo Kedosh Yisrael. Beginning aloud on pages 159, 160, and 161, and thereafter offering a few moments of silent prayer. The traditional text concludes on 166. So when we're on page 161 and we're in the Kedusha, as we saw with that, you might say, prelude or prequel a moment ago, just after the Baruch Hu, we're surrounded by angels. And it's as a result of our being a community, a minyan, that we are propelled heavenwards, which is why traditionally we take 3 small little ups on our toes. We're trying to ascend to the heavens. So we begin aloud, and then we are surrounded by angels in our own conception thereof. And after being with the angels, that's when we become quiet. So we have the after ringing of the angelic chorus in our ears, which brings us into the silent portion of the Amidah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanoram, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Ha'akol, V'Zocher Chasei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer Poked, U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham U'Poked Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechaye Metim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Omatir Asurim, Omekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot, Omida Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Pneumon Atalachayot Metim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaMetim. Mekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kishem shem akdishim oto b'shmei marom, kakatuv haya nevi'echa, v'karaz el zev yamar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivot, Melech Haaretz Kvodo, Az B'Kol, Rosh Gadol, Adir B'Chazak, Mashmim Kol, Minasim Lumat Serafim, Lumatam Baruch Yomeru. Baruch Elohim Komo, Mimkomcha Malkeinu Tofia, V'Timloch Aleinu, Kimachakim Anachtuloch, Matai Timloch B'Tzion, B'Karov B'Yamenu Le'olam V'Ed Tishkon, Titkadal V'Titkadash B'Toch Yerushalayim Yerchon, V'Dor Netzach Netzachim, V'Yenenu Tirena, Malchutecha, Kadabar Hamur, B'Shirei Uzecha, Al Yedei David Meshiach Tzidkecha. U'mechelam l'Tzion, l'dor v'dor hallelujah. L'dor v'dor nagid God lecha. U'lenetzach nitzachim kiddushatecha nakish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu le'yamush le'olam va'ed. Ki el melech gadol kadosh ata. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Page 167. Page 167. Excuse me. Shemei Rabah. Bama Dibrakhuti Makunte Bakasimru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabah Mavarach. Olam Yom Meomayam. Yitbarach, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitparvim, and I say that I will Shmeni Kudusha, Ruchum, Lelam, Nikabaksimru, Amen. Tikabel, so then we the Chais Rakadamik Shaimaru, Amen. Yeshua Amen. O Seshalom Bermamav, Huyas Shalom, Olengabal Chais Ravimero, Amen. Pardon me. Thank you. On page 168. Page 168. En kamocha Elohim Adonai v'en k'masecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim v'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimlach Le'olam v'ed Adonai oslam Shalom, of Harachamim, Heitiva Birtzoncha et Zion, Tivnei Chamot Yerushalayim, Tivnei Chamot Yerushalayim. Kivecha levad batachnu, Melech Elram v'nisa, Adon olamim. Please rise. Vayihi bin Soa Ha'aron, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, V'yafutzu oyevecha, V'yanusu misanecha, Mipanecha, Ki mitzion Tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion Tetzei Torah, Udavar Adonai Birushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, La'amo Yisrael B'kedushato. Ribono Shel Olam, we have opened your holy ark, your Aron HaKodesh. And as we open our hearts, we call out to you to open your eyes and see all the suffering of your children in Ukraine. Open your eyes to the violence, the wickedness, the cruelty, the mayhem, the brutality, the shelling, the attack of innocence. Open your eyes to the suffering. Open your eyes, O God, to all the good being done by so many, the volunteers, the soldiers, the civilians, the caregivers, the people from all over the world who are offering their love and their kindness, their arms, their homes, their tzedakah. Open your eyes, O God, and see all the good. And let the good outweigh the wickedness. And now is the time for you to bring forth your hand to bolster those who are doing good and to weaken those who are doing evil. Open your eyes. Lift up your hand. Open your heart. And we all say Amen. Bottom of page 170. Bebe on arochetz, belishme kadisha, kadisha yakira, anna emar tushvechon. Be'on arochetz, be'on arochetz, V'lishme kadisha, kadisha yakira, ana emar tushbechon, yehera avakadamach, Tiftach libi b'yoraita, v'tashlim mishalin t'libi v'liba d'chol amoch Yisrael l'tavo l'chayin v'lishlam. Amen. Page 171.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Galul Anoitin Ramamash Mayachtav Adonai Hagedula Ve'Hagevura V'Tiferet Ve'Hanetzach Ve'Hod Kicho B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Kicho B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Adonai Amamlacha B'Yamin Na'aseh L'Chol Rosh Romemo Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Le'Adam Raglav Kadoshu Romemo Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Le'Har Kodsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Shkoyach Ariel, you may be seated. Today's Torah reading is from Amor. Amor is the name of the Parsha, and the Parsha begins with the reading on page 727, on page 727, page 727. And if you do not have a Chumash at home, you have a Tanakh. We're in the book of Leviticus, chapter 23. Chapter 23. It's Perek Chav Gimel in Leviticus. Dan, make high up. The overall frame of the past couple parshiot and this and moving forward is we need a manual. When you and I don't know what to do, we open a book. We follow a manual. And there are all kinds of manuals in our lives. This is a manual for the community to gather and worship for the first time ever. It took a year to build the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And now everything is beautiful. It's all arrayed. It's all designed. It's all perfect. And the Kohanim are being instructed in how they're to conduct a ceremony and worship. And this is going to operate for 1,200, perhaps 1,300 years. And then ultimately the second temple will be destroyed, and the Kohanic ritual as we have it will cease in terms of its being functioned. But for 1,200 years, this is the methodology. Last few parshiot and next little bit as well. Within that frame, that the community is going to be standing and sitting, turning and twisting. The Kohanim will be standing and sitting, turning and twisting, and move this animal here, and lift this chunk of incense here, and set this fire here, and lift up the water here, and the oil here, and put the challah here, and so on. Within all that framework comes this section here, and we have in this section a description of the Jewish holidays. And the first holiday that's mentioned here on the prior section, of course, is the holiday that's going to be leading up from, there's a connection between the holiday of Passover and Shavuot, but we're starting here on page 727, and we're speaking of the 7th month, the first day of the month, which is, of course, Rosh Hashanah. And you might ask, why is Rosh Hashanah here? Why is Yom Kippur here? Why is Passover here and Shavuot and Sukkot here? Within this manual of the Kohanim learning how to perform the ceremony and the protocol for the worship of the people. And I'll answer by saying, number one, God didn't ask me, and so I don't know, but I'm going to offer a guess. Because our Jewish holidays are more than Jewish holidays. Our Jewish holidays are part and parcel of what it means for community to come together and pray and sing and rejoice and, if necessary, grieve as a communal effort, as a community experience. We do everything together, including having our holidays. So the holidays are inserted into the manual of worship because each of the holidays in effect is part of Kohanic protocol. First Leah. Verse number 23, it's on the bottom of page 727. Baruch Hanam Baruch Olam Boed.
Baruch Hanam Baruch Olam Boed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'krabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu Torto. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, Taber el bnei Yisrael lemor, b'chodesh hashvi'i b'chav ha'chodesh. Yelachem Shabbaton Zichron Tura Mikra Kodesh Kom lech lavara lo tasu Vikratem Mishel Adonai.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Yamod Amashul Levi Levi. And the next Leah is on page 728, verse number 26. And this speaks, of course, of Yom Kippur. And on page 728, verse number 26, it's in the middle of verse 26. It shall be a sacred occasion for you. You shall practice self-denial. What does self-denial mean? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that we're supposed to fast on Yom Kippur. It's a long-standing tradition that goes back to the way back yonder, and it's become part of the experience of being a descendant of the people of Israel, that we fast on Yom Kippur. But the Torah itself says that we're supposed to deny something, each one of the self, which means that your understanding of self-denial might be different than my understanding, and his understanding might be different than her understanding. So how can you and I come together and have a shared communal experience of Yom Kippur? We have to have some type of a method of guiding ourselves so that your and my self-denial construct an atmosphere. And so we rely on the oral tradition that's been handed down for who knows how many centuries. And that oral tradition specifies that we fast. You and I know also that if somebody's ill or in a weakened condition, then she or he would not be fasting, because the most important element of life is life. But if we can set that aside temporarily for just a span of hours, and we can all agree on one thing, that we fast on Yom Kippur, then perhaps that will motivate you and me, each one of us in his or her own mind, to acquire something called self-denial that's going to make this day different than all of the days of the year. Anyway, here.
Baruch Adonai and Baruch.
Baruch Adonai and Baruch Olam V'ed.
Baruch Adonai and Baruch Adonai Elohim Malcham Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amin V'Natan Lanu Torah Baruch Adonai Noten Torah.
Amen. וידבר אלוהים משה לאמור, פרסו לחודש השביעי הזה, יום הכיפורים הוא מקרא קודש יהיה לכם, וניתם את נפשותיכם. יקראתם משל אדוני, וכל מלאכה לא תעשו בעצם היום הזה, כי יום כיפורים הוא לכפר עליכם לפני עליכם. כי כל הנפש אשר לא תונה בעצם היום הזה, נכרתה מעמך. כל נפש אשר תעשה כל מלאכה בעצם היום הזה, ועבדתי את הנפש ההיא מקרב עמו, כל מלאכה לא תעשו, חוקת עולם לדורותיכם בכל משמעותיכם, שבת שבתון היא לכם, וניתם לנפשותיכם, בתשעה לחודש, בערב מערב עד ערב, תשבתו שבתכם.
Baruch Adonai Elohim Malcham Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet B'chai Olam L'tav B'tochenu Baruch Adonai Noten Torah.
Amen. Can you come on over here? Thank you. I forgot my candy. I'm sorry. I forgot the candy. I'm a little bit out of practice. I apologize. Moshe Hirsch, Mikayab. Yamo Moshe Vishnu Yanko Lishlishi. This next Li is on page 729, verse number 33. And you know what? This aliyah was designed specifically for you, sir. If you look at this word here.
I saw it on verse 26 also.
Yes, but this is your aliyah. It's
yes.
Okay, it starts on page 33, but it goes on to the. There it is. So see, your name is in the Torah.
Eighth?
Ah.
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 Ah. Baruch Adonai and Baruch.
Baruch and Baruch Olam V'ed.
Baruch Le'olam V'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher Bach Abona Min Kol Ha'amim Lanos Alanu Espresso. Baruch Adonai Zayin Torah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai Moshe lemor daber b'nei Yisrael lemor b'chamisha asar chodesh hashvi'i hazeh chag haSukkot shiva yamim Adonai Permission mikra kodesh kol melechad avodah lo tasu shiva yamim t'givir shel Adonai Yom hashmini mikra kodesh yeh lachem v'yikrotem mishel Adonai atzeret kol melechad avodah lo tasu Elamor Adonai asher tikru otam mikra kodesh lakri v'shel Adonai ola u'mincha zevar tzachim devar yom b'yomo Movad Shabbat Adonai, Movad Amadotechem, Movad Kol Nidrechem, Movad Kol Nidvotechem, Shitinu L'Adonai. ב15 יום לחודש השביעי. ועשיכם את תפילת הארץ את החג ואת החג אדוני 7 ימים. ביום ראשון שבתון וביום השמיני שבתון. ולקחתם לכם ביום ראשון פרי עץ הדר, כפות תמרים בענף עץ, אבות וערבי נחל. ושמחתם לחם 7 ימים, וחגותם אותו חג לאדוני 7 ימים בשנה. חוקתו למדו אתכם בחודש השביעי תחגגו אותו. בסוכות תשבו 7 ימים, כל עזר בישראל ישבו בסוכות. למען ידעו דורותיכם כי בסוכות הושבתי את בני ישראל, הוציאי אותם מארץ מצרים. אני אלוהיכם, וידבר משה את מועד אלוהי אל בני ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasa lanu Torah semes b'chayei olam natah b'socheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noseinu Torah.
Amen. Shkoyach. Thank you, Moshe. Tamu, yes, sir.
You're doing good.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Whew, I'm glad. I'm trying. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much, sir. Tamu, Rivka, Bat Zalman, Vakela, Levi. That's right, Amor. That's right. This is your Bar Mitzvah Parsha. Exactly right. Exactly right. If I had remembered, I would have. So, you want to do the Haftorah?
Yeah. But no, I'm sorry. We already passed it. Yeah, so that won't work.
We one line of the Haftorah. So, we're on page 731. It's chapter number 24. This is the section of the Torah that brings to our attention the idea of a Ner Tamid, an eternal flame. In the ancient days, every single day, a Kohen was given the responsibility, the sacred task of making sure that the wick was intact and the oil was poured in to that specific Ner, so the flame would always be present. At a certain point in time, I'm not exactly certain when, we incorporated Ner Tamid into synagogue. And obviously those of us who are familiar with Shul know that when you walk into a synagogue, you'll see an eternal flame somewhere, usually up near the bima, usually up near the aron. Why? It's found here. The origin of the Ner Tamid in association with the aron is in this passage, and that's why it becomes part of synagogue architecture near the aron in these past centuries. So, for example, it says here, it's verse number 3, Michutz la parochet ha'edu b'ol moed yarochet ha'aron. Set up that Ner Tamid outside the parochet, which was a curtain of some type or a screen, immediately in front of the ark. And you know the ark is the box that had the plaques, the tablets of the law in it. So there was a parochet, a screen or a curtain of some type, and the Ner Tamid was just outside this parochet, this screen, this cover, you might say. And so it's based upon that when we start developing synagogue architecture, and we have what we now call an ark, usually a closet up in the front, the Ner Tamid is somewhat associated with or near. And of course, we have a beautiful Ner Tamid here. When we first moved to Mobile, we noticed something deeply touching. We have the large chapel, the large sanctuary and the small chapel. We have a Ner Tamid in each one, but we also have a reserved Ner Tamid from the older building. And that was incorporated into the Yortzeit alcove, which is very significant, very meaningful, that the Ner Tamid from the prior building is part of our everyday presence. So, if you happen to know, was the Ner Tamid that we now have here by the chapel or by the sanctuary?
It was in the chapel.
In the old building?
It was in the chapel.
It was in the chapel?
Yeah, I'm almost positive. yeah.
On Dauphin
Yes.
Street. On Dauphin Street. This near to me that we have in the Yorkside alcove.
Actually, it does not go further back
I
to
don't know.
the original.
To Conti Street?
It could. It's very possible because things were taken from there for,
From Conti to Dawson?
yeah, and it would have been into the smaller chapel because it was a smaller, I would say I'm 85%
Wow, that's
sure
exciting.
that it was from the chapel. And if you look at the
Do you remember if
age of it,
it looks like it could have been old enough from Conti,
exactly,
from the first building.
exactly.
Do you happen to remember, Mark?
I would have thought that when the synagogue was built on Dolphin Street, that the leadership would have been sure to move the eternal light from Contact on to Dolphin Street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then I would assume that from Dolphin here,
We have pictures in the
In the Red Book?
yes, of the old sanctuary, and we can look at that. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that, like I said, because of the decor of the light, that it probably came from Conti.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
glad you brought that up.
Lovely. Very emotional.
I'm gonna look into that.
Very emotional. Take your towels and kiss right here. Take your towels.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Boed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak Le'olam Boed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torto Baruch Atah Adonai
Shmo.
Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe Lemor. Tzavet b'nei Yisrael v'yichelecha shemen zayit zaka tu'id lamor lalot ner tamid michutz ha'parochet v'yirubo moed yaroch oto Aaron erev boker lifnei Adonai tamid chukat olam l'dorotechem al ha'menorah ha'torah yaroch et ha'nero lifnei Adonai tamid.
Baruch Atah Adonai
Shmo.
Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Hayei Olam Notah B'Tzoheinu Baruch Atah Adonai
Shmo.
Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Shkoyach. I'm not shaking. Shkoyach. Devorah. Tama Devorah bat Yosef B'Tobalei Ale Chamishi. Verse number 5. You and I know the word challah. This may be the origin of what you and I hold on to in terms of challah as being the bread that we eat on Shabbat. So in addition to having this ner tamid, the eternal flame, right outside that screen or that curtain in front of the holy ark itself, there was also a piece of furniture, and there were 6 shelves divided in half, and a challah was placed on each of these total of 12 shelves, representing each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And according to tradition, the challah was placed on Erev Shabbat, and then it remained there. And of course, there was a miracle from God, and the bread that did not have any azodicarbonamide or whatever preservatives lasted for the entire week and was tasty. And the Kohanim, in turn, each Kohen had a turn of when he was on the shift, would eat the challah. And the next Friday, new challah was placed. And so, of course, we have food right there on the bima next to God's holy box because it's a Jewish life. How can you not have food? But so here you have the word challah, and it's found here at verse number 5. So that's the association. What does it mean to bring a loaf of bread to represent each of the 12 tribes? It means that the tribes are as essential to the life of the community as bread is to each and every one of us individually.
Did they have a Kohen from each tribe by any chance?
Remember, the Kohen, the group of Kohanim, are a clan from inside the tribe of Levi. So there are actually 13 tribes. Joseph is a very large tribe, and Joseph splits into two, Ephraim and Manasseh. So, excluding the tribe of Levi, there are 12 tribes. Those 12 tribes settle in the Promised Land. And they're all up and down. Israel's a long and skinny country, and they're all settled across the length of the land of Israel. The tribe of Levi, which contains the clan of Kohen, is scattered throughout. And they live in villages and cities all up and down the length of the land of Israel. So if you're from the tribe of Dan, and you're from the tribe of Reuben, and you're from the tribe of Asher, and Zebulun, and Naphtali, and Manasseh, there are little villages of Kohanim and Levim scattered all over each in every one of the 12 main tribes. So the Kohanim and Levim have a geographical connection to their host tribe. So let's, in modern terms, let's say we'd have an Alabama group of Kohanim, and they have an affiliation with Alabama. And there's a group of Mississippi Kohanim, and they're affiliated with Mississippi. And there's Kohanim living in New York or in Virginia or Connecticut or Iowa. And not Iowa, but anyway. And so, couldn't resist, sorry. But that's the idea. So the Kohanim had a relationship. And this is spelled out in the Mishnah 2,000 years ago. On occasions, there is a calendar. A group of Kohanim from one tribe would go to the temple and conduct the services for 2 weeks, and then go back home. And then the next ship from a different tribe, different geographic zone, would come to Jerusalem, do the service for 2 weeks, and go back home. And that way, every tribe felt like it had direct contact with the temple on a representational basis. Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Bled.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai
Ushmo.
noten haTorah.
Amen. ולקחת סולי והפית אותה 12 חלות, 2 סונים יהיה החלה אחת, ושמת אותם 2 מערכות, 6 מערכות, על שולחן הטוב ונרוי, ונתת על המערכת הלבנה זתה, והייתה לו לחם להזכרה, איש אל אדוני ביום השבת, ביום השבת ירחנו לפני אדוני תמיד, מבני ישראל, ברית עולם, ואת לארון ובניו יאכלו במקום קדוש, כי קודש קודשים הוא, לא מאשר לא יחוק עולם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emes b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shkoyach. Thank you. Pardon? Ner Tamid? Ner. Ner means flame or candle or light. It depends on how you want to translate Ner. Tamid means always there. It doesn't mean that it's the Energizer Bunny and it's never going to run out. It doesn't mean that. It means, how about consistent? Okay, every day a Kohen had to put oil into that lamp and check the wick. And that's talked about in great detail in the Mishnah. Super deluxe detail. And the next morning, the Kohen would come in and check it and put more oil in. My understanding. It was supposed to be running 24/7, but they didn't have a limitless source of oil. They had to keep replenishing it. So now you understand. I mean, this leads into our understanding of Hanukkah, because the oil had to be maintained in the menorah, the 7-branched flame holder, as you well know. We all know the tradition, of course, how, yay, the chashmonim, ta-da, right, and everything. But if the flame holder doesn't have oil in it, they is mir. This is 1,200 years or 1,100 years before the chashmonaim. That's what's going on here. This is the layout, the outline. Katie? My understanding is, well, then maybe I'm mistaken. So I need to go back and study a little bit. Where are we? Which page are we on? See verse 3. Verse 3. I'm a little surprised. Okay, we need to pull Rashi out afterwards. Let me pull Rashi out afterwards. Okay, I'm a little surprised. That's okay. I may be mistaken. Entirely possible. We use super deluxe special. I can't even go into detail about the extra exceptional quality that keeps that flame going. I can't even go into detail over it. Elisa Tar may call you up. Tamol is nervous with me. Shishi, yes. Verse number 10, Shishi. Page 732, verse number 10. This is a painful experience in this parsha. And it indicates that there were moments of conflict in our history. There was a fight between two different Israelites, two men. A fight broke out, and one of them, perhaps in the heat of the moment, blasphemed God. He said something he should not have. And of course, you and I know that sometimes when we are acting rashly, we lose our control. So the consequence of publicly defaming God is execution. And that's called for here in this next passage. We all need to be on guard, each one of us, internally, for the self. How do we behave? How do we speak? How do we hold the name of God in our mouths and in our minds? We have to cherish this. It is the most important element in the entire universe and beyond. Vayetze. I beg your pardon? Did it actually happen? Well, obviously I wasn't there, so I can't tell you if it actually happened or not. So Torah sees it as having taken place. So why is it in Torah? That's the question. And I would, well, what do you think? Why is it in Torah that two men are fighting and one loses his control and he curses God's name, and the consequence for the community is something literally catastrophic, that the whole community has to participate in execution. So what does that mean for a community? Look, he deserves a punishment, but not stoning. So, well, that you and I probably view reality differently than people did 3,000 years ago. Yes. Yes. Right. Yes. Straight out, clear. That's very clear. So, yes, follows the mother's tradition. That's kind of a footnote. So, of course, and there would be a commentary on to what extent do both parents have an influence on the growth of a child. And again, the Torah looks at reality differently than you and I look at reality nowadays in the 21st century. Maybe the Torah is saying in its own time period, we need to have people of a shared religious tradition influencing children for the better. I'm not sure if that holds sway nowadays. You and I know family. We have family members in our own families. We have friends in our own communities where we have an interfaith couple or interfaith household, and often it is the non-Jewish parent that is really nurturing the child for Jewishness. We've seen that in our own experience. And we've seen in our experience where we have interfaith families where there's a great sense of love of and collaboration for rearing children in Jewish life and part of the synagogue or the temple or the community. We know that. That's not the case here.
Verse 15. Anyone who blasphemes his God, implying that it's more universalistic than just among the Israelites. The Israelite people speak thus: anyone who blasphemes his God shall bear his guilt.
But he is talking specifically to the Israelites.
No.
Yeah, maybe that, you're assuming that God is your God, and so.
It's more universalistic, I think. And we know there are societal religions today that will stone anyone who blasphemes, or kill anyone who blasphemes their God.
One second. Allow me a minute. I think there's another reference to blaspheming God explicitly in the Torah where the capital crime is called for, an execution is called for. So I would suggest that this parsha here in Emor, which says, Ish, a person who curses his God shall be held accountable, is referring to an Israelite. When somebody speaks individually, it's him. So if I call out and I curse God, then it's me, it's the first person, it's an individual. It's not our God, it's my God that I'm cursing. Let's leave it at that. Let's just move forward. Let's leave it at that. Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam V'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam V'ed. Baruch Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher baka banu mitohamim v'nachamanu lekolta. Baruch atah Adonai
Nashmo.
Eloheinu ha'torah.
Amen. Vayetze ben Isha Yisraelit v'hu ben Ish Mitzri b'tok ben Yisrael v'netu b'machaneh ben Yisraelit v'ish Yisrael v'yikov ben Isha Yisraelit et Hashem v'hakalalu v'yaviu oto el Moshe shemimo shlumit bat divri l'matidan v'nechu b'mishmar v'yifresh lהם al pi Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu toratu v'chayei olam v'titenu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ha'torah.
Amen. Before Moshe, Yamod Murray, Yamod Moshe ben Yonah. What's your mama's name? Chana le Shri. Yes, verse number 13. By Daber. Oh.
All right.
Okay.
I'm okay. I know how to fall.
Good. Don't do it again.
All right.
You did it once. You don't do it again.
Sorry.
No, sorry. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so take hold of the Torah.
Maybe I said something about my grandmother. I think her
No.
name was Anita.
Okay. Just hold on to the Torah for a second. Get some strength from the Torah. Ready for Borchu?
Yeah.
Baruch
Baruch Adonai HaBarak.
Baruch Olam Bo'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak Le'olam Bo'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher baka banu mitohamim v'natan lanu torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai Moshe lemor hotzeh et hamakaleel michutz l'machaneh b'samchu kol hashomim medideihem al rosho v'gmoto kol edah v'bnei Yisrael tadaber lemor ish ki kalel elahav v'nosecheto v'nokev shem Adonai mot yumot rogam yigemuvo kol edah kager kazrag v'nagvo shem yumot v'ishtiakeh kol nefesh adam mot yumot makeh nefesh Ma yishamen ata nefesh tacha nefesh v'yishiten mum b'mito kasher sakein asalo sher b'tachat shever ayin tachat ayin shein tachat shein kashiten mum b'adam ken yiten bo umakeh behema yishamen umakeh adam yumat mishpat chayeh lachem kager kazrach yeh Kinin Rolechem, Vadaboshel, Ben Israel, Vetu, Etamakalel, Mukutsamachane, Bekumoto, Oven, Ben Israel, Sukashi Tibaranoi, et Moshe.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah levet. V'chayei olam v'tapakakenu v'Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Your name is in the Torah, Moshe.
Yeah,
You see that?
I know my sister's name is Miriam.
Yeah, really? Is she older or younger?
No, she's older.
She's older?
Yeah, she's older like 5.5 years.
Just like in the Torah.
Yeah.
Do you have a brother named Aaron also?
No, his name is Herschel.
Herschel. Okay. Well, close it up. 2 out of 3. You want to come on down?
Okay.
Just step.
All right.
You want to walk on down? You want to walk down?
Yeah.
Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba v'bechayechon v'yomechon v'bchaye lechol beit Yisrael ba'gala v'vizman kariv v'imero amen Yehei shemei rabba mevarach v'alam l'yomei el maya Yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitparvda v'yinaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudashah b'richu le'elam v'kavachata v'shirata tushvechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'olma v'imero. Amen. Offering a Mishaberach. And if you know someone, please mention that person's name at this time. And we all pray. Mishaberach Otenu Avim Zudem Sorach Rachel Rachel Kolel Elizabeth Kolel Et Yenta Bat Gisha Chanasara Bat Peshalea Tobalea Bat Freda Avram Yudah Ben Gisha Elalea Bat Aviva Claudia Thomas David Shlomo Ben Tobanachum Spencer Bat Bashi Miriam Bashi Bashi Bat Spencer George Patinos, Wendy Fassman, Tom Bastoni, Avi Moshe Ben Mendochana, Billy Singleton, Yaakov Ben Leora, Diane Sizemore, Yusbas Laverne, Shavot Bat Sarah Imenu, Navruanit Bat Aliza, Tom McCarthy, Victor Gansulin, Karnea Chaya Bat Sarah Imenu, Pat Cockrell, Rivka Bat Chacha Lifsha, Amen. Almighty God, bring forth your touch, which fashioned the universe itself, and lift up in strength, health, safety, and well-being all who are your children, for they are kept in our hearts in love. Place them in your heart in love as well, O God. Favor them with your strength, your watchfulness, your compassion, and your healing. Bring forth the angel Raphael, your healing presence, and place that angel by the side of every one of your loved ones. Grant your light to come forth and guide all into the days and week ahead. Bring forth healing and shalom, removing anxiety and fear, placing instead hope and courage within the mind and the spirit of all. Hear this prayer and many more like it. And we all say, Amen. One or two quick lines from the Haftorah. It's a lengthy Haftorah, and so I'm selecting. And we're on page 736. This is a passage from Ezekiel. Ezekiel is a Kohen, and he's very concerned that the second temple is going to be reestablished and rebuilt. The first temple has been destroyed in his life period, in his lifetime. And so that's the goal of this overall context of these chapters in Ezekiel, in chapters 39 through 46, 47 or so, give or take. But I'm looking at one specific little passage, and it's verse 25 and 26 and 27. Remember, the number one element for a Kohen was that he had to be ready to go to the temple at all times, and he could not come in contact with anybody who had died. If he came in contact with somebody who had died, if he'd been to, you and I would say going to the cemetery, he could not function and serve in the temple area. And so now, verse 25, a priest shall not defile himself by entering a house where there's a dead person. We just explained that. Next part, he shall defile himself only for a father or mother, son or daughter, brother or unmarried sister. So a Kohen is supposed to take himself out of the temple functioning when it comes to an immediate family member's death. This is the paradigm. This is also found in the book of Leviticus. This is the paradigm for how later Jewish law views attending to somebody's funeral. And it's based upon the primacy of sibling, spouse, parent, and child given to the Kohen, both in the book of Leviticus and also here, that you and I, in Jewish tradition, view sibling, spouse, parent, and child as primary. And therefore, when we observe our mourning traditions, in the modern reality of the past 1800 years, traditionally we say Kaddish for sibling, spouse, parent, and child. Because this specifies sibling, spouse, parent, and child, but not in-laws, not grandparents, not cousins, not uncles, when the later tradition of saying Kaddish emerges about 1800 years ago, give or take, 1900 years ago, give or take, we use this as the prism for saying Kaddish. There are those nowadays in the modern community that say, if somebody wishes to say Kaddish for additional family members, he may. And that's certainly an option. But the requirement of saying Kaddish for sibling, spouse, parent, and child is based upon this framework. We rise, page 177, a prayer for our country, and then a prayer for Israel, and then we will lift the Torah for Hagba and Galila. Now on page 177, the bottom stanza, a prayer for our country. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. Let us say, Amen. The top of 178. Avinu Shabashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'go alo, Parech e Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu. Avinu Shabashamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel, the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love. Spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them. Crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen. V'zot ha'torah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Yahalalu on page 183. Yahalalu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav Shmo levado, hara al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren liyamo, tila l'chol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am krovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavodos, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavul Adonai b'adrat kodesh. Kolonoi alamoyim melkavot hirim, Adonai almayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halbanon, Vayirkidem kamo egel lebanon misuyon, kamo ben reimim. Kol Adonai chotze lavot eish, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yachol el ayolot, Vayachasov ya'arot, Uvayachalo kulomer kavod, Adonai lamabu yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech la'olam, Adonai oz li'amo yitein, Adonai yavarech etamo v'shalom. Uvenocho yomar. It's Chaim Him Chazikim Bam V'Tom Cheha Meushar Racheha Darchenoam V'Chol Netivoteha Shalom. Shivenu Adonai Elecha Benashiva Kadesh Shomeinu Kadesh Shomei Kekedem. We are seated. Kaddish Shalom is on page 203. Yitkanal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'amad yivrakudei m'chulkudei b'chayv shemiru, amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach, Olam Yalmei Amaya Yitborach Yitborach V'Yishtabach Yitpar V'Dram V'Yitnaseh V'Yitadar V'Yidaleh V'Yidalal Shmei D'Kudashah Rechu Leila Min Kol B'chata V'Shirata Tishb'chata V'Nechamata Damar V'Ma V'Yimero Amen. Titkabel Tzlotomodhon D'Chois Rakadam Avuhon Di V'Shmai V'Yimero Amen. Yea, Shalom Mishchahayim V'Yimero Amen. O Seshalom Rabamav V'Yaseh Shalom Oleinu V'Chois V'Yimero Amen. Page 204. En Keloheinu En Kadonenu, En Kemalkenu, En Kemoshienu, Michelohenu, Michadonenu, Michemalkenu, Michmoshienu. Nodel Elohenu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkenu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Elohenu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkenu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shekatiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha et Kedorat Hasamim. Yoleno on page 205. The Yoleno is on page 205. We rise. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol latet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kgoye aratzot velo samanu kemishpachot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'goraleinu kechol hamonam Banachnu korim umishtakabim umodim livnei melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosei haaretz umoshav yekaro b'shamayim mimal u'shchinatu zo Begave meromim, Hu Eloheinu en od. Ki Adonai Hu Elohim Bashamayim imol v'yoretz mitoch Enos. B'toratecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihiyeh Adonai u'shemo Mourner's Kaddish is on page 207. And on this Shabbat we remember with great love Max Cohen Berenti, Murray Edelbaum, James Guttel, Hyman Rips, Bertha Weber, Rachel Burson, Celia Berkowitz, Jacob Cohen, Sam Lifshitz, Joseph Gollum, Sadie Friedman Sattel, Mamie Sinclair, Craig Movsovitz, Ann Stein, Harry Grodsky, Donald Schwartz, Roy E. Reiner, Isidore B. Mazel, Norman Buckman, Rufus Sizemore, Harris Lubell, Rains Watkins, Beatrice Susan Hirsch, Kay Podum, Madeline Fass. Are there any other names to mention today? Those so inclined are invited to rise for Kaddish on page 207. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah be'olma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'olam olmei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha b'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'olma v'meru. Amen. Yehei shalama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. We extend our hearts and our love to all those who are mourning loss. May the names of your loved ones serve as inspiration for bringing bracha, blessings into the world. Reminder, Zoom Havdalah tonight, 8 o'clock. Of course, our annual meeting, it's for our shul members. It's tomorrow. Monday the 16th, Tanakh is at noon. And Tuesday, Hebrews at 3, and Spirit is at 5. And looking ahead into the future, make your plans. Ruth Lichtenfeld has organized a cemetery beautification project that's going to be on Sunday, June 12th, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And volunteers are being asked to bring paintbrushes and roller pants and tarps and pruning items, and we're going to spruce up our beloved cemetery. That's Sunday morning, June 12th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Please contact Ruth if you have any questions. And we'll conclude with the Adon Olam on page 211, and thereafter we'll make Kiddush and Motzi, and perhaps those joining in at home will also make Kiddush and Motzi with us. Page 211. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Liet Na'asa V'cheptza Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yachare Kichlot HaKol Lovado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yiyeh B'tifara V'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Lam Shilo L'achbira V'li Reishit V'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'ha'misra V'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzur Chevli B'yet Tzara V'onisi Umanosli Menat Kosi B'yom Ekra B'yado Akid Ruchi B'yet Ishan V'ya'ira V'imrochi Gaviyati Adonai Li V'lo ira. Good Shabbos. Thanks for joining in at home. And let's make Kiddush and Motzi. We have Kiddush and Motzi in the back.
Say hi to your mom. Say hi to your mom.
Hi, Mom. Adonai Shamash, take it away.
Shanu b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'Torah tamrit olam, ve'ni ve'bnei Israel oti le'olam, she'amim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz, u'vayom hashvi Shabbat v'yafash.
Okay, Berach Adonai Yom Shabbat V'Katzeyu. God bless the seventh day, made it holy. And we say Savri, Guffin.
Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Have somebody else do it.
You can do it, Motzi. And now Hamotzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, l'motzi lehem min haaretz.
Amen. Good Shabbos. Thanks for joining in. You're important to us. You're part of our community. And it matters that you're here. We thank you for being here. Leak road until we see each other in person, hopefully soon.